Alright, today folks, we're going to be using a pH probe, which is what's in this box, to determine the pKa of weak acid, in this case, vinegar, acetic acid. Now, I've already actually got some vinegar poured into a little beaker because we're going to use just our pipette to obtain some. But there's a few things I need to do to set up. First thing, I need to get the rest of my computer going. So I've got it logged in, and I've got Logger Pro running. So the next thing I need to do is connect the little interface box to the computer. You heard that beep beep, that was it telling us it's ready to go. And as long as I plug this in, as long as the computer's ready, you should see a little box pop up here in the window identifying it. Now I turned the computer around so you guys could see it, but once that's up, I need to actually load up the program. So on this particular lab, open advanced chemistry with Vernier, and this was need to look at the directions. Half titration, number 24. Now, that's just going to get the computer set up right so it pops up the pH meter on there. Now, ironically, no, it doesn't see the pH meter yet. Ironically, I'm not going to actually enter any data. I'm actually just going to look at two pieces of data. So I'm not going to use that table that pops up. I'm only going to use the data that comes off of it. I'm plugging this in. Hopefully, the thing, yeah, went away. And I do need, now I'll need to rinse off this here pH probe. And I'm not terribly worried about what the number it says on there right now. But what does it say? Not neutral. Which makes sense, I just put water in there. Alright, now I'm going to fill up the burette. And I'm actually going to use 1 molar sodium hydroxide, which is what's in this container. Now before I started filming, I rinsed this out with water, got it nice and clean, and I made sure my little valve is working. So I am going to get just 50 milliliters of this at a time. So I'm using my 50 milliliter beaker. Put this here for right now. I said beaker, 50 milliliter graduated cylinder. Now, let's set this over here because we'll probably use that again going into the slab. And now, I'm just going to put some in here for now. Just barely put some in. I'm going to just swirl this over the sink and try to coat the sides of the burette with that sodium hydroxide. That's good. And now I'm just going to let this drain out. It's alright if it doesn't go. I'm going to stop before it totally drains. That'll keep some sodium hydroxide in that bottom little thing, and now I'm going to fill it up mostly the rest of the way. I shouldn't have to worry about it going too high and overflowing because I only put 50 milliliters in the graduated cylinder to begin with. And like expected, this didn't even get all the way up to the top. So I'm going to, just so I have a starting point, I'm going to lower my amount down to where I'm on the 10 mark. That's at 10 milliliters. Get the the bottom of the meniscus there. And that will be my 0. Touch the side. This is waste. All right, now we're ready to do a titration. So I'm going to grab a graduate Ellemeyer flask, and I'm going to grab just 50 milliliters or 10 milliliters of some of the vinegar solution. And I pre-rinsed out this volumetric pipette already as well. But this first time I'm going to overflow this, as in fill it up past the line and then just totally let it drain out. And now I'm going to do that again, but this time I'm going to stop when it gets and then let some out so I get the 10 milliliters on the nose. Pretty good. All right. 10 milliliters. All right. I'm going to put in a couple drops of phenolphthalein. Shouldn't do anything here because my Ellemeyer flask is full of an acid, so it's just going to stay looking like water. And now I'm going to slowly start adding this in. Now, technically I'm just titrating right now. I want to go until that turns pink and stays pink. Now, it's possible, and actually probably a good idea if you're not sure on how to do this, just actually do a run through first where you know for sure you go too far. So just leave this wide open and just wait until it turns pink, and then know that that's the upper limit of where you should go to the next run. So you can do a sacrificial run if you want. And technically I already did one, I just didn't film it. So I know roughly where this is going to turn, so I guess that's probably blocking your view. But this is turning pink almost immediately as that sodium hydroxide goes in there, but it actually fades almost immediately. So it's doing everything it's supposed to. So I'm just going to go until that turns pink and stays pink. And I'm slowing down my rate, so I'm just putting in drops in. We're about halfway to its end point, or where it's going to turn pink and stay pink. That's why the pink is staying a little bit longer each time the drop goes in. There we go. All right, I'm not terribly curious about this number this time, but it is right around 8.10 milliliters. But what I do want is the pH right now. So I'm just going to put the probe down in this. And what do we get? pH of, let that stabilize. And I am tilting this some to make sure the bottom of the probe stays totally submerged in the liquid. Alright, I'm going to go with 10.4 and just not worry about the fact that it's jumping all over the place. Alright, that number is mostly useful. What I actually want though is the pH at the equivalence point. Now, I'm way past or not the equivalence point. I want to get it at the halfway point of the equivalence point. So on the curve, I want it where the volume of the NaOH in there was half what it currently is. And the only way I'm going to get that is I'm going to put in another exact 10 milliliters of the vinegar. Because I put 10 in before. The second 10 will put me back at the halfway point. So I'm going to do this the exact same way. Here's my other tin. And as this goes in, we'll see the pink just goes away. That's because we're getting back to an acidic pH. And then, putting the pH probe back in here. Going to swirl around to make sure it all mixes up. So I'm just going to put the pH probe back in here. Still tilt it again so it stays submerged. And the value it settles on here is the pH at the midway range, so the middle of the buffer region. It's where the pH equals the pKa. Oh, this pH probe is way off. That should be about 4.7. I'm definitely getting a 5.0. Alright, but that's okay. Our pH probes are cheap, not great. But we theoretically could fine-tune this thing with a calibration. I'm not going to bother. Hopefully your pH probe will do a little bit better. And I actually typically take ones this far off and tweak them somehow anyway, get them right. Alright, but that's how we do this lab. Now it's technically ready to go for another run. You would just actually start with another Erlenmeyer flask, another 10 milliliters of vinegar, followed up with a second 10 milliliters of vinegar. Thank you.